After severe gales, it's very advisable to have a quick tour around your relatively newly planted areas to see what the damage is and to see what you can put right and save a tree that otherwise might have been damaged in the gales or where its stake has blown over. Sadly, this Cornus capitata, which is actually an evergreen, has blown out of the ground. It looks as though it had rot in the base, and frankly there's nothing for it but to cut it up and plant something else here again. So here we've got another bit of storm damage, and sadly young Trachycarpus wagnerianus has been half blown out of the ground in the wind, and as we can see, quite a few of its roots have been broken off, although quite a few remain, and the plant is clearly healthy and alive. So we've got a choice to make here. Do we right the plant with two huge stakes and hope that it'll reroot the other side, or is that going to be a waste of time because the next strong gale will probably blow it over again? Do we actually cut off all the roots, leaving as much as we can, and replant the whole plant? I don't know. Or do we actually leave it and see whether it'll root itself more and whether the top of this palm will eventually upright itself? I'm not sure there's a right answer to that question, and I think we need to ponder that bit of storm damage for a little bit longer. So here's an absolutely typical bit of storm damage in the wind. A stake blown out of the ground, wire netting blown over, wire netting now rubbing on the trunk of this small tree. Only going to take a matter of seconds to put it right, but it does need putting right. You never know, a rabbit might creep in underneath the wire, which is now not tight to the ground, and the next blow could easily snap off the whole tree itself. So very simple, straightforward, squaring up, straightening up. Simple, straightforward, but a stitch in time, as they say. So another typical bit of storm damage. Somehow this cornus has got detached from its stake, and the stakes around the wire netting, clearly one has broken off in the storm. We need to retie this cornus and get it back upright again. As you can see, it's bent over a bit in the wind. If we don't do that, the next gale might well blow it flat. So we're actually putting the stake to try and straighten the trunk of this cornus. Normally we'd put the stake on the windward side of a tree, but here, because of the way it's flopped over, we're going to have to put the stake on the inner side of the tree, and using one of these excellent ties which can be released over time so that the tree has scope to grow without any damage. 4 instances of storm damage and why it needs checking up on. Plenty more like that after every storm. So here we've got a really important plant that's been half blown over in the gales, and this is the evergreen Magnolia tamaulipana from Mexico, which flowered for the first time this year, possibly for the first time in the UK. The flower was somewhat disappointing in that it was only out for about 48 hours and the smell wasn't terribly nice. But anyway, a real rarity, and obviously the weight of the evergreen leaves has flopped over, the stake has broken, and we need to get this very important plant propped up properly before it blows out of the ground altogether and is lost. So it's really a matter of replacing the stake and tie and getting a larger, more robust stake in place until the plant has developed a bit further and can get its roots out further and develop a bit more. So we've got a much bigger stake in place now. The same tie is still really quite usable, and again, as you can see, this tie, although we're doing it up tight now, we can release it and loosen the tie year on year. And now we've got this very rare plant sorted out and back facing the daylight again, rather than being flopped on its side. Just get the rhodia protection back in place, and hopefully we might get a flower next year, although I don't as yet see any flower buds forming.